Good afternoon. I am new to this video making thing, but I'll try and improve on the previous video. Today is my second video that I'm going to make, and it's let me set the stage. It was 1994, and this is the first game I played at the club SKW Club at the time. It was 11 April 1994. Um, Earlier in the year, I think it was in February that year, we played the national and the Namibian chess championships. Back in the day, you only had one tournament and then you determined who the champion was for that specific year. So um, I took out a couple of chess books from the local library and I read books, and the books were about strategy. And there I learned to castle opposite sides and things like that. But I learned a couple of strategic ideas and I tried to implement them in this game. And one of the things in the opening which I did was to transpose into a different opening, or it looks like my opponent tried to transpose into a d4 opening, literally, in this game. So let's see what happens if your opponent does not play what you expect, and how you can continue with the game. Here I played e2 to e4, and my opponent responded with d5. Now, when you play e2 to e4 and the opponent plays d7 to d5, you can literally expect anything else. You can expect the Sicilian, or you can expect the Perch, or you can expect the French defense, or you can expect the Alekhine. So that's or the Caro-Kann, when you play the pawn to c6, the first move for black. So that's the moves that you should be ready for when you play e4. And at that time I already had these openings down to a science. I knew how to reply the first 10 moves at least, from what I've studied in chess books from the library and elsewhere. So here my opponent played d5, the Scandinavian defense, and I captured the pawn, and it is to lure the queen out. Now the queen needs to take, and then if the queen takes, then you will attack with the knight. The knight will attack the queen, and then the queen will have to move again. So that's the idea. The Scandinavian defense is quite a drawish opening, and then it goes like this. And here the opponent has a choice either to play to d6, but the most popular move is actually queen to a5, maintaining the pressure on this diagonal, pinning the knight against the king. Of course, white can just play d4 here, knight f6, knight f3, c6, and that pawn is played so as to allow the queen to go back to d8, because there are some tricks where you play your bishop to d2, aligning it with the queen, and then later on you can jump here with your knight and attack there, and then if the opponent doesn't see, you can capture the queen. But that's just a cheap trick. So, but that's a possibility. So that's the normal way of playing the Scandinavian defense. But my opponent opted for a different variation. He played c6, and then what did I do? I just developed my pieces. I played knight to f3. He captured the pawn. So you have to be careful. Don't be greedy in the opening and take more pawns than you should. Take what you must, and then continue with your development, because you can very easily continue capturing pawns in the opening stage of the game and neglect your development. So here I played d4, control the center. That's what I'm trying to do with this move. I'm controlling the e5 square. You see my knight and my pawn fighting for the e5 square here. And here my opponent plays knight to f6. He has to develop his king side. Otherwise, there will be problems. If he neglects his king side development, then he might be in big trouble later on, will not be able to castle, etc., etc. And then here I put pressure. I played pawn to c4. The idea is to put pressure on this pawn. The opponent will capture. Of course, then I will also have an isolated pawn. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm putting pressure on my opponent. So now it looks like we're heading for a d4 opening where I will have an isolated pawn, and it worked out very well for me. Here my opponent replied with e6, opening up for his bishop. Come and give a check, or just develop the bishop to e7 or to d6, depending on what he wants to do. Yeah, at that time I use prophylaxis a lot. Prophylaxis is when you try to prevent a move of your opponent that could be unpleasant. Because I had this idea of getting both my knights out. I want to bring my knight to this square, to c3, but I do not want the bishop to pin my knight. So I played a3 first. It looks like a waste of time, but I want to fight for these squares as well. So once my knight gets to c3, then I'm fighting for all the squares in the center. So that was my idea, and that's why I played a3. And here my opponent played b6, and we were actually out of book now. We are not following any book moves. After that, now I develop my knight to c3, and now my opponent made a positional mistake. My opponent played bishop to d7. Now what's wrong with this move? Two things. This bishop blocks the queen's path to d6. It also occupies a square where you could have played the knight. And ideally, if you push your pawn forward to b6, it's better to bring the bishop to b7 and then have it on this diagonal, because there will be some action here on d5, and it would have been better to play the bishop there, because we have a pawn chain here and the bishop is staring at this pawn chain, and the bishop literally has no future on this diagonal, because all the squares are covered by my pieces. So I did not understand this move by my opponent, but I guess I just can't see why he played there. It would have been better to play either the bishop to b7 or to a6. a6 would have been a good square also, again, to put pressure on the c4 square, you know. And if I capture, then my opponent could capture here and then denied me the right to castle. So that's a kind of moves that you need to play. You need to make unpleasant moves for your opponent. So here I'm positionally I'm better than my opponent because of this inaccuracy. And then I played bishop to g5. Now, according to the chess engines here, my move is actually a mistake. I could have played a better move. Apparently, I should have played my bishop to f4. Put pressure here. Take the knight on that diagonal. Take the knight here, and then I have a check here. You know, forking the king and the rook, and forcing the opponent to play his knight to the side of the board. So that's the idea with bishop to f4. That's what the computer recommend. But my idea was very simple. I wanted to control. The central squares, and I wanted to make sure that this knight is knocked out of commission or not able to defend, even if it means that I have to capture it. So that was my idea. But my opponent found a solution. He played his bishop to e7 to fight against the pin. And then I continued with my development, bishop to e2. And then my opponent castled, and I also castled here. So far, so good. And now he captured the pawn on c4. Now, it is a good idea that you wait for your opponent to develop his bishop in this kind of queen's pawn endings, that you wait for your opponent to play the bishop, and then you capture the pawn, and then your opponent will have to waste a second tempi to capture back. So that was the idea, and so that's exactly what my opponent did. I castled and then he captured. So white is better because now I am controlling this central square, this one, and this one. I control 4 central squares. So we can see this opening from a Scandinavian opening has been transposed to a queen's pawn ending with isolated pawns. And I'm getting back the pawn immediately. I'm not wasting time. I'm taking with my bishop on c4. And then my opponent played pawn to b5. Now, of course, temporarily he's sacrificing a pawn, but I didn't understand the sacrifice because I don't know what his idea was. Maybe he wanted me to take, and then if I go here, then he wants to come here and then put pressure on me. But then I could just simply play play my queen here, and I think I would be fine. There's just no way that he could win here, because if he now chase my my knight, then I could come back here, and my queen would protect my pawn, and I'm still a pawn up. So maybe that was his idea. I don't know. But anyway, he played. That is not what happened. He played b5, and then I just it's a pawn. Of course, in the opening you still need to be careful. It's only move 11. You still need to be very careful. So I just captured the pawn, and then he played a6, and I just played my knight back. I gained the pawn for nothing. He had no compensation for it, and then he played his bishop to c6. I first played my rook to e1 because I wanted to put pressure on the central squares here, and I wanted to see what he wants to do. Of course, also what I wanted to, because now with his bishop on c6, he's attacking my he's attacking the e4 square with 2 pieces, with the knight and with the bishop, and so I had to strengthen that position as well, and so that's why I also played my rook there. I didn't want to use my queen for that purpose. And I wanted to prevent a possible pawn to e5 push later on in the position. Anyway, my opponent then decides that it is time to speed up the game, and with this move he's actually making a mistake. I just captured this bishop, and then he captured back with the knight, and now I'm clearly better here. I'm still controlling the center. There's nothing that his pieces he did not develop in the most proficient way. Look at this knight and rook; they are not participating in the game, and I am ahead. Let's see how many tempis. Now I'm playing my queen forward. My rooks are linked. Okay, my rooks are linked, and I have all my minor pieces out, and they are all ready to go. I'm ready to strike. There's no punch, there's no nothing. I'm just waiting for him to get ready, and you can see these 2 pieces are not participating, and his queen. So he basically needs 2 moves I'm 2 moves ahead of him basically, and I've already played this rook. So you can say 3 moves. So I'm ahead in time. And now he played this knight a lot of moves, and he's playing it again. Knight to d5. Obviously, once you exchange knights, I don't have a problem with that. If he takes my knight, if he captures my knight like this, then I will just recapture with my pawn, and then I will strengthen my d4 pawn, still controlling the center. Yeah, I didn't want to exchange pawns and pieces. I just played my knight to e5, improving my position. There is also this idea where I can play my pawn forward later on. There's also ideas where I can play my rook to e4 and then swing it over to h4 to put pressure on the king side. So many ideas. I could also swing this rook over, bring it to the d file, and then I'll have both my rooks here. Anyway, here he made a mistake. He played the pawn to f6, and now he created a weakness on e6. Now I know knight on e5 can be a very annoying piece because it controls so much space in the opponent's territory. So it can hit all these squares, and so my opponent create this weakness here on e6 because he wanted to get rid of my knight. But now he's losing his bishop. He already lost the one bishop. He had a bishop that counted my bishop, but now he's losing his other bishop. I'm selling the knight as expensive as possible, meaning I'm capturing a bishop, and then he captured back with his knight. Of course, it looks like he's developing a piece, but now I am getting the pawn on e6. And here, my opponent thought that he had a winning knight fork here. So here I want you to pause this video and see what move can I play if my opponent would play knight to f4. I give you a few seconds to think about it. Okay, my opponent actually played knight to f4, but I had a refutation for that as well, and I had that before I even captured the pawn. I calculated the variation, and what I want to teach you here is that you need to be able to, if the opponent use tactics, you can also use tactics. You just need to find the right one, and you can use tactics to fight back against the tactics of the opponent. Of course, my opponent is attacking my queen and my rook with the knight. That's a knight fork. But I have this powerful move. Rook captures on c6. Yeah, I'm winning a piece. I'm giving check to his king. And I've just captured his knight. So you've lost a piece. And one of my pieces is already out of danger. And now he... after that move, he moved his king to h8, and then I played my queen to e4. See, now both my pieces are out of trouble, and I'm attacking here, and I'm attacking his knight. So now he needs to defend this knight. Instead, he decided to attack my rook, and I am ahead with material. So if you're ahead with material, just exchange the pieces. So I captured his rook attacking his queen, and then he captured my rook back, and then of course now he's what he did here, he's launching he's having a counterattack, because if I take his knight, he can take my bishop. But I loved my bishop very much, and I have a lovely pass pawn, so let me push it. This pass pawn should be pushed. Okay, so I push my pawn forward, and then he had to find another way to play. He played his knight to g6. And now what should we do? Bring my last piece into the game. Now you can see I'm dominating the center, totally dominating the center, covering all the squares. The only square where he has an influence is here, but the rest belongs to the white pieces. This square, and this one, it all belongs to the white pieces. So I'm clearly dominating, and I'm having this file, the E file. So here my opponent attacked me with f5, and now he's given me all for the central squares. Oh, he's actually taking this one with his pawn, because he's attacking it with the pawn. But that's not a problem. I just moved back here to queen to d3, and then he brought this knight into f4, and then I played queen to d4. You see, I try to stay in the center of the chessboard, and then he played rook to e8. He wants to exchange rooks, and I'm having more. I have I'm a piece up, so I'm just exchanging. Um, Rook captures on e8, and then he captured back. Queen captures on e8, and now I'm getting his knight. And I think my opponent thought he would checkmate me, but he missed that I could return with my bishop. And he actually played queen to e1 check, and I played my bishop back to f1. You have to be very careful when you capture pieces of your opponent, especially, I mean, the opponent has a threat here, so you must make sure your king is safe. Make sure your king is safe before you before you capture piece, because he's obviously giving me the knight, thinking that he can checkmate me. And so I just captured the knight. So now I'm 2 pieces up. And then he came for check, and then I played my king back. I mean my bishop back to f1 to block the checkmate. And then he played, I think, queen to a1. So where else? What should he have played here? I mean, to prolong disaster, he should have at least gone back to e8. To prolong the end of the game. But I guess he had enough. He saw enough from this game, and so he basically just resigned himself to it. And so, can you pause the video once again and find the winning move for white here? White to play and win in one move. The game is over. Can you spot the winning move? If you got it, well done, congratulations. The move I played was queen to b8. And that is Schach Mate Rovsky. I'm attacking the king, and there's no escape along this rank. The king cannot escape. Its own pawns is blocking it. And the game is over. And this is how I checkmated this opponent. So what did we learn from this game? We learned that the opponent can transpose into a different opening, because I played e4, and then my opponent played d5, and then now we're in a d4 opening. The other thing that we learn is control the center, and then develop your pieces as quickly as possible. Like here, I'm ahead of development. My opponent played a lot of moves with his bishop, first here and then here. And then I always played I always try to play another piece to develop my pieces. And then here I was forced to exchange. Actually, I wanted to exchange the bishops because I reckon that I'm ahead in development, and I wanted to maintain that. And I continued to put pressure on my opponent. And then here, my opponent created a weakness on e6. That is the other lesson that you can learn from this. And yeah, exchange pieces. Although I helped my opponent to get his pieces into the game, I saw that I can win material. I'm winning a pawn. And then another thing that you could learn from this is that if your opponent is using tactics, you should also look for your own tactics. And it's exactly what happened here. I got my own tactics lined up, and I won a piece. And again, my opponent tried a final tactic here. When he played his queen to e8, threatening to mate me, but I think he missed that I can defend by playing my bishop to f1. So always be ready for your opponent, for the ideas of your opponent. Don't ignore your opponent's ideas. Develop your pieces as quickly as possible, and that should give you an advantage. And control the center, and that's exactly what I did. I control the center. So transposition of the opening, control the center, be ready to defend with tactics, and exchange pieces. If the opponent wants to exchange pieces, if you have more pieces than the opponent, then exchange the pieces. Don't be afraid to do so. So that's my lessons from game 2 on my channel. Thank you for watching. I appreciate. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And I will bring more content. Thank you so much. Goodbye.